Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Welcome to the pre-show. It is now 9:01 and 23 seconds, 24 seconds, 25, if you're counting. And we go live at 3 minutes after the top of the hour over on the radio station. That is odysseyradio.com, ODYSY radio.com. That's for audio only. And if you want to join us for the well, you're not listening on the radio yet because we're not live there. So if you're listening anywhere, you're listening here or on Facebook. If you want to join the best version of the chat room, come on over to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And you can join the other Intrepids in here already doing our thing. And so welcome to everybody that's coming in. Anita Palmer, good to see you. Morgan Snow, good to see you over there, and Randall Flagg, and others who are starting to filter in as we are so early on a Friday night. So Friday night, what are you doing with your Friday night? Hey, Michael, Viking Off-Roading, good to see you. What do you do with your Friday night? I go listen to Scotty Roberts on Intrepid Radio. That's what I do. That's, when we're getting older. Because what do we do with our Friday nights? It's after 9 o'clock. It's time to be in bed. It's time to be home. That's how you know you're getting older. Oh, wait, we got 4 seconds and we got to go. Going dark. Stand by.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts. This here is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on Odyssey Radio. You can go to Odyssey, ODYSY radio.com, and you can hear this show in its live audio format. You can hear it in replays, I think, every other day, something like that, or every day. They're up there. You can go check out Odyssey Radio for all the goodness that is Odyssey Radio, all the shows that are up there. Check out the lineup that's there. If you're listening on Odyssey or some other place and you can't see the video, you can come over and see the video simulcast over on my Facebook page, on my YouTube page. You can go to my Patreon page, and all of those are listed down below here on the YouTube site. But patreon.com/Scotty Roberts, and Facebook, it's my Facebook. And if you're going to YouTube, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And come on over and you can be part of the chat room. It's probably the best chat room out of all of them for right now is the one over on YouTube. So come and join us. Come and join me and the other Intrepids that are already over there talking up a storm. And I want to say hey to those I didn't see earlier: Randall Flagg, Morgan Snow, Steve Clark, and it's a lot of repeats. So welcome everybody that's starting to come in. And appreciate you coming. If you're listening and you're not in the chat room, you can come on over. You can show your face and join in the chat over there. And pardon my voice a little bit tonight. I will have no control over the possible coughing jags that start up. As you know, if you're a regular listener to this show, it's been about 3.5 weeks since I started this. Contracted some kind of little virus in my chest, and that has been wreaking havoc with me. I almost lost my voice today, which is weird because I'm kind of at the tail end of it, it felt like. So there it is. And I got to put on my glasses so I can read the chat room over there. Michelle Kenham Free, welcome. Good to see you in here. And so, folks, if you don't know about this already, stick around. After this show is over at about 10 o'clock Central Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, we do the Captain's Cabin. That's our post show, our after show, where we let down our hair a little bit, such as what we have left, and we can lighten up. We can take calls at that time and talk about the stuff we're talking about on the show tonight. And let's see, what else have I got? I wanted to do, I've been reminded of the Renaissance Festival this last week, just because of, if you're on my social media, you know some of the stuff that went on over there. And with my son. And I'm looking for something. So I'm stalling. I'm talking as I'm going here. I'm looking for my bits of Shakespeare, my Shakespeare cards. And now I'm not seeing them. Well, damn it. So they were right here. Did they slide under my computer screen? I don't know. I don't see them. So we're going to go without them. But I was there. I was going to, because I was thinking Renaissance. I was going to go do some of my Shakespeare cards for tonight. But alas, poor Ulrich, I do not see them. So we'll go without. Instead, let's do one of these. Spark Courage. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Spark Courage, 50 Ways to Be Bold. It's a great extemporaneous exercise. And this, as you know, if you watch the show, a bunch of faux matches in a faux match book. And each one of these has different things written on them to help you be bold. So let's just mix these up a bit and grab one. Let's see if it's one we have, if we got one we've done already. Let's see. Here, let me see. I'm going to hold it up here. You can read it. The message say, if you hurt someone's, I can't read it. If you hurt someone's feelings, look at this. This shows you how old I'm getting. I got one of these babies. Yeah, man. Look at that. There's my eyeball. If you're watching. Let's see. If you've hurt, and these are readers, by the way. It's just my lighting mixed with red ink on tan paper. Can't see it. If you've hurt someone's feelings, put aside your ego and apologize. There it is. That's what I thought it said, but I wanted to make sure. If you've hurt somebody's feelings, put aside your ego and apologize. Now, this is something I think we all have to do from time to time. How many times do we say something and we're so proud about the things we say, what we want to say, the message we want to convey, that once we find out we might be wrong, or if somebody proves us wrong, all of a sudden we don't apologize. We just, we move on and we hold our ground. And I tend to be a debater and an arguer. I like a good debate. I'm like, if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And if I'm wrong, prove me wrong, and we'll talk about it. And so I enjoy a good debate. But do I always apologize when I find out I'm the person who has said something wrong or done something wrong? So Steph Cuervo Queen says, I use a magnifying glass that has the light in it, Scotty, so don't feel bad. Yeah, look at this. I actually have one. It's got a button for the light, but my battery's worn out. So there you go. I need one with a light in it. I need to get a new battery. That's what it is. So apologizing. I think this is something I have seen in our culture that has gone along with the kind of everybody wants to blame the way everybody's acting nowadays on COVID. Oh, there was COVID and everybody had to be sequestered. But you know what? I hardly noticed that. I hardly remember that. There were good times. I know that we were sequestered and that we were in our homes and quarantined a bit. And, don't go out. And, by all means, wear masks. And all of that happened. And I had some good friends that did a once a week chat on Zoom. We got a bunch of us together and talked. And so true strength lies in vulnerability, said Michelle Canham-Free. Absolutely. I agree with you. True strength lies in vulnerability. And Valerie says, hey, too hottie Scotty. Hey, Val. Good to see you. But you're both right. And Steph Cuervo Queen says, I apologize even when I don't do anything wrong because I feel I might have done something wrong without realizing it. Yeah, I don't do quite as much of that, but I do apologize. I want to know. I'm not going to use my cough button tonight because it's just going to sneak up on me anyway. Um, I think there is a lost art of apologizing, a lost art of saying I don't need to always fight to be right about something. But for me, I like to argue. I like to debate. I like to put forward a case, and I'm like, hey, prove me wrong. But if I'm wrong, I'll be one of the first people that'll say, hey, I was wrong. You were right. And I hate doing that when it comes to political debating. I hate being wrong about that. So I do like to look at my facts. But you know what? If you don't like to apologize, make sure you get your facts straight ahead of time. My son this week had some stuff that went on, and we talked about it a little bit. You saw it on my social media. The nice thing about some of the people there that were raking him over the coals is that there were some of those people that came back and apologized to him once they found out they were in the wrong, and which is a good thing. Not everybody did. Everybody tries to find a way. Well, he could have done this better, and I might not have reacted that way. That's not a fucking apology. So that's a still trying to save face. Saying you're sorry about something, apologizing genuinely, means that sometimes you give up your right to be right, or to fight for what you think is right, or to fight to be right. It's like I've told you this before when we've had other different topics on this show. When my wife and I did counseling, marriage therapy years ago, the guy said to us, it had to be about 12, 13 years ago. And the guy said, the therapist, he says he listened to our stories. And then after he heard us both for a few minutes, he says, okay, let me interject something here. He says, you both want to be heard. You both want to be right. He says, so let me ask you, here's something you need to ask yourself. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be married? He says, I'm assuming you want to be married because you're here. He says, so you have to ask that question of yourself. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be married, or do you want to be happy, or do you want to do the right thing in life? So like the matchstick said, is this a way to be bold? Remember the title of these things. It's Spark Courage, 50 Ways to Be Bold. Discover your inner bravery. As it says on the back here, with this box of 50 faux matchsticks featuring prompts that will inspire you to take leaps, face your fears, and speak your mind. And that's what this is about. And that's what learning to apologize is about. It's sometimes we have to buck up and say, you know what? I wasn't right about that. I was wrong. And I'm sorry. And so take that to heart. And there's a little extemporaneous counseling, you could call it, for the day. And of course, we get that in the chat room right here. Michelle Canham Free, Steph Cuervo Queen, everybody who comes in here, Val. If you guys are all giving us great advice all the time. Hey, Jeremy Hanson, Unleashed. Jeremy Hanson has just come into the chat room. Morgan Snow is here. Good to see you. Steve Clark is here tonight. And I'm sure there's several others. If I don't call you out and say hi, it's not because I'm omitting you. It's because I talk so much, I don't always look at the chat room. So welcome to everybody that's still filtering in, coming on in. It's that time of night. And so tonight, I wanted to talk about ghosts, the science of ghosts. Remember, we used to do Fridays were ghost days here on Intrepid Radio. And I like Fridays, and I like talking about ghosts because it's a favorite topic. And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of shows out there. There's a lot of books out there, a lot of articles, a lot of magazines, a lot of things that are said about ghosts. And both the pro and the con of ghosts. Con, I don't use that as a euphemism for, not even a euphemism, maybe a model of what most people do. I don't believe it's all a con game, although I do believe there are some people that do fake it and they give you false information. But I base a lot of my ghost experiences on just that, my experiences, my take on ghosts. I was talking to a really good friend of mine this afternoon, and he's someone I've always known to be very logical thinker and intellectual. And I've known him for years. And I've talked about him before on this show. He's an intellectual. He's always been an atheist, or if not an atheist, at least an agnostic so far as saying, I really don't know what's true out there. Although he does, I think, have some room for spirituality. And, but he's always been one that's been kind of against this whole ghost thing. And we got to talking about it today because we were talking about the fact that Rainey and I are going out to do the Phantom's Feast at the Renaissance Festival grounds. And this friend of mine used to be part of the Renaissance Festival for most of his life. And and we've talked about that situation before and why he's not out there now. But we were talking about ghosts for a few minutes. He says, so what do you think? He says, come on. He says, do you really think that ghosts are real? And I don't remember exactly how he put that to me. But he said, do you really believe this stuff? He says, or, it's just, you want people to believe it, or you want to believe it. And we got to talking. And I told him about some of my experiences and some of the things that I've heard and some of the things I've picked up. People he knew that have passed on that we picked up while doing the Renaissance Festival site. The different things that have happened out there, things that have happened to Rainey and I. And he says, and I loved this about what he said. Rather than me inviting him right off, he said, maybe I should come along with you one of these times. And I said, I'd love that. I'd love you to come along because he's got a skeptical mind. And he is a good friend of, now here's a name I'll toss out there that Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller. And Penn was somebody that was a contemporary of this friend of mine, Carr, out at the festival years ago. And he cut his teeth out at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. And I got to know him a little bit through Carr. And we were talking online one day. And this was, oh my God, this is back 2008 or 2009. Penn Jillette and I were talking online. And there must have been a post I put up or something. That's when I started working with the Ghost Hunters. And he said, come on, Scotty. He says, you can't tell me. He says, I thought you were a better thinker than this. He says that you'd believe in ghosts and all of this stuff. We got to talking about it, and it was very friendly. And I invited him to come along on a ghost hunt with me. I said, why don't you come with me? And ghost hunt is a very trivial pop cultural way to put things. But I said, why don't you come with me and we go do an investigation? And he said, well, I don't know. He says, I could do that. He says, but he says, maybe I'll wait till the day you can prove to me scientifically that ghosts exist is the day I might come along. And I said, well, I think it's already been proven scientifically. It's just whether or not you want to take the evidence and believe that it is evidence as opposed to anecdotal evidence and so on. And that conversation went on and on. And I always saw Carr as being kind of the same way because they were all kind of a group of the same thinkers. And Carr did say to me, maybe it's age, maybe it's mellowing with age, whatever it is. Even Michael Shermer, as we know, and we've mentioned a couple times in this show, head of the Skeptic Society of America or something. I don't even know what it is. But one of the chief skeptics with a public face out in America, even he questioned his skepticism of it with his own experiences he's had in the last few years. Pardon me while I have to take a drink. I should have hot tea here as opposed to sugar-free Mountain Dew, but that's what's here. So I didn't go get something from upstairs before the show. My ghost only comes out if you play the piano, says Mechanics. Well, play the piano more, see what happens. Do they like the music? Michelle Cannon-Free says, I think Penn has changed his tune. Now, I haven't kept up I haven't had a conversation with him since then, 12 years ago, whatever that was, almost 15 years ago. But I haven't kept up with him. I don't know what he's changed. Are you saying that he has now expressed that he might have had some a little change of mind on this, change of heart? I don't know. I know my friend Carr is open to it, and so I hope to Rainey and I to take him, maybe he and his wife, maybe just him, and go out and do some investigating in the upcoming weeks. We are doing the festival site, Rainey and I, on the 13th and the 14th of October with Rocky Stucci, Rainey, and me. And we're going to have my son Flynn wants to come along, age 14, but he wants to start learning this stuff. He wants to see what it's all about. So he's going to come along with us. And so I want to start talking about this whole thing about the science. That's what made me think of doing this tonight. This science of ghosts. Now, I know we've talked about some of this stuff before from a different angle, but and I hate to do this. Maybe I don't have to put on my glasses. I got some stuff I have to look at here, some of my notes, but I got to blow it up a little bit. So my eyes are all fuzzy tonight. But the science of ghosts and the science, and some of this I'm pulling from Science News that's out there, sciencenewsexplorers.org. And one thing it always seems that science wants to do is it seems that science or scientifically based groups, organizations that write about stuff, examine stuff, research stuff, when it comes to ghosts and the supernatural, they always want to take not the scientific approach, which is totally open-minded, show me the evidence, but they seem to want to have this starting point that says, well, it's obviously not true. Science hasn't been able to prove it for years, or we'd know about it. And so we're going to use that as our leaping off point while we talk about the science of ghosts. And even in their own article, they say, here's what might explain why some people see, hear, or feel a spooky presence. So right away in their subtitle, they're already telling you, here's what you might really be feeling if you see ghosts. And they say people love scary, spooky stories of spectral phantoms. And while there's no science to support the existence of ghosts, research does provide plenty of explanations for why we might genuinely sense a supernatural presence. Now, don't jump on that too fast and go, oh, maybe science is all on board with it. Maybe they're finding things. No, it's more science is going to, and you'll see by some of the things we're going to talk about here, that what science will do is say, well, it's this reaction in the brain, it's chemical, it's this, it's psychological, and so on. So a shadowy figure rushes through the door. It had a skeletal body. It was surrounded by white, blurry areas, recalls Dom. And the figure hovered, didn't seem to have a face. Dom, who prefers to use only his first name, had been fast asleep. Just 15 at the time, he panicked and closed his eyes. I only saw it for a second, he recalls. Now he's a young adult who lives in the United Kingdom, but he still remembers the experience vividly. So we have to ask when we hear Dom tell his story, did this really happen to him? Was this figure a ghost? In the mythology of the United States and many other Western cultures, a ghost or a spirit is a dead person who interacts with the living world. Now, we don't always think that way. Sometimes we go, the things I've encountered that I thought might have been ghosts, I don't know they're ghosts. I say that's something that's saying it is somebody I know who has died. Does that mean that's who and what it is? If we take into account reincarnation, if we take into account different religions, different spiritualities, even Judeo-Christianity, if we take all of that into account, is this the stuff that actually exists? Are there ghosts? Can ghosts actually manifest? And So it's not always that we think it's a dead person, somebody who's passed on that interacts with us. In some stories, ghosts might whisper or groan or cause things to move or fall or mess with electronics. They might even appear as a shadowy or a blurry or see-through figures. And ghost stories are lots of fun, especially at the time of year that's now coming up on us, Halloween. I've been hearing noises on the ceiling at the same time each night, says Claire Llewellyn Bailey, who is now a student at the University of South Wales. One night, a big thunder prompted her to grab her camera, and she took a picture. Other photos she took on that and later nights showed nothing unusual. Does this story make it seem like a ghost exists? Or is there's a picture here you can't see. Sorry. There's a picture of a glowing figure and a flash of light that the camera accidentally captured. Is that what you're seeing there? It looks like just a light, bright blur on the side of a shot of her living room. Is that a ghost? Some people believe the ghosts are real. Chapman University in Orange, California, runs a yearly survey that asks people in the United States about their beliefs in the paranormal. In 2018, 58% of those polled agreed with the statement, places can be haunted by spirits. They agreed with that. And almost 1 in 5 people from the United States, that's 20%, said in another survey conducted by the Pew Research Center in Washington, D.C., that they've seen or been in the presence of a ghost. How about you guys listening? All of you over there in the chat room. I know there's many of you that have given your ghost stories in the past. Have you seen, felt, heard ghosts, what you believe to be ghosts or spirits? And what's the difference between a ghost and a spirit? I've always looked at it this way. A ghost is the spirit, if you will, of a person who you knew, who was once corporeal in form, physical, died, passed away. Their presence is here in ghostly form. A spirit can be something that has nothing to do with anybody that's ever been alive, as far as physical bodies like we have. It might have to do with something completely different. Elementals we talk about. We've talked about the elementals, the fae, the all these different kinds of beings. If there's room for ghosts, are there room for fairies? Is there room for fairies? There's many people I know believe in the fairy folk. We've watered the fairy story down so much that the spirit beings known as the fae, the fairy, the little people, the good people, even if you go out in the back country of Ireland today, they won't even say fairy. They'll talk about the wee folk, the small folk, the little folk, the good people. And do they exist? Does it seem like they don't exist because we've relegated it all to a realm of fairy tales and stories? We've talked about this before, but it's worth bringing up again. Can places be haunted? And almost 1 in 5 people believe they can be. On ghost hunting TV shows, people use all this scientific equipment. We've talked about this equipment that gets used. I use some of it. They attempt to record or measure spirit activity. Numerous creepy photos and videos make it seem like ghosts exist. However, what science is going to tell you, or what sciencenewsexplorers.org is going to tell you, is that none of these offer good evidence of ghosts. Some are hoaxes created to fool people. I know that's their first go-to. Well, it can't be real because many people perpetrate hoaxes. So they're saying, could be hoaxes. I agree with that statement. Could be. Created to fool people. The rest only prove that equipment sometimes can capture noise or imagery or other signals that people don't expect, and ghosts are least likely of many possible explanations. Now, I look at some of the equipment we use. I've got sitting back over there. See if I turn this, you see right there. That light box right under Buzz Lightyear's hand right there. That's my spirit box. That's my Frank's box. That was made for me by Frank Sumption. And we picked up some interesting things on that box. I would give you a demo now. Rainey does not like me doing that stuff in the house. She's not afraid of it. She just doesn't want it in the house. She says, the more you start to call on it, talk to it, invoke it, she said, you're going to have it around, and I don't want it around in the house. Keep your little friends outside. And she's totally into this stuff. So she's somebody who attracts the things, for lack of a better way to put it. She always has. And we've talked about that on the show. I don't want to go over material that we've gone over so many times before. That's why I keep saying we've mentioned that on this show before. But I noticed that science likes to take all of these things and say, I don't see them taking actual footage that people pick up, or I've got recordings and footage of things that are ghostly voices. I've played them for you before. I had at the Water Street Inn here in Stillwater, Minnesota. And I've mentioned this before. I played this for those of you, if you weren't here and don't remember hearing it. Rainey took me out on my 60th birthday, so almost 3 years ago now, to the Water Street Inn. It was at the height of COVID. Everything was shut down. She did massage at the hotel, so she got an inn over there, and we got a nice big suite in the old 1890s section of the old hotel. It's right on the river there, the St. Croix River, that divides Minnesota and Wisconsin. And there's only one other person that night staying in the whole hotel. There's a guy. He was in a room way down at the end of the hall. And there was no band that night. The restaurant was closed. All the restaurants and bars in town were closed down for COVID. And so here we are, quiet down there. We got a room we're staying in. It's nice. Some of the people that ran the hotel, the management said, yeah, do a little ghost investigation while you're here. So Rainey had talked to them about it. So we went and we did, and that's where we picked up and we played on this show. The middle of the night, let me back it up a little bit. Earlier in the evening, while we were investigating one of the old rooms, Rainey said she could see in her mind's eye. You can call it psychic. You can call it, what's the word I'm looking for? She's not, I'm trying to think of the proper word for it. She feels things, sees things, but she saw what looked like a woman in an old dress, think late 1800s, leaning over and whispering in her ear while she's sitting on the sofa. And she said, she said, I'm getting the sense she wants you to sing for her. She wants you to sing the song Loch Lomond. And you all know that song. I've told this story before. You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. And the last verse says, indulge my poor voice, the wee birdies sing and the wildflowers spring, while the sun on the water is sleeping, but the broken-hearted kens nae second spring again, and the wave will cease from their graving. Oh, you take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye, but me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. You can hear how bad my voice has gotten over the last couple of weeks. Almost lost it today. So pardon me that, but I had to sing it. And that's what this ghost Rainey thought it was, of an older woman in a dress, was asking me to sing. So I sang it for her. And I didn't see a ghost, and we had lights were on. We weren't sitting in the dark. There's no reason to do that. That's for TV. That's so you can see things on cameras and so on. It's for effect. And a ghost doesn't need the light on or off to show itself. So we recorded for some EVPs. We didn't hear much after that. And so we called it a night about midnight. And we went to bed. And around 2:30 in the morning, thereabouts, I feel Rainey sit up. And our room is pitch black. She sits up, and you could hear the rustling of the very crisp white cotton sheets that we had. She sits up and she says, "Do you hear that?" And I start listening. And we could hear what sounded like music. Like, where's that coming from? And we walked out in the hallway. Couldn't hear much out in the hallway. Came back into the room. We sat on the bed, and you could hear it like it was like behind our headboard. But behind our headboard was the bathroom, and then a big open parlor in this big room we had with a hot tub in it, and the balcony going out to the river. So we looked everywhere. It was pitch black outside, no traffic because the whole town was closed down for COVID. There's no car sitting outside with a radio playing. And this was in November, so it was cold. So there's no music coming from anywhere. And the music kept playing. And so I pulled out my phone, which is all I had at the moment, with a recorder on it, and I turned on the recorder. And I said to Rainey, I said, "That's not music. That's a voice. Somebody's singing." And those of you who've heard this story before, indulge me as I finish it up. But I recorded for a good 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. And when I played that back the next morning, it was very soft in the distance, but you could hear a woman singing. And it sounded like somebody singing a ballad, but we couldn't make out the words. I didn't hear musical instruments. Rainey thought she heard some musical instruments. As I listened and I amplified that sound, I didn't hear any instruments. I heard a woman's voice, a solo voice, and it sounded like this. It had that sound of going, and this is how intelligible the words were. You could hear, and but you could definitely hear that it was a melody, but you couldn't make out the words. There was no instrument. I took that song, that recording, and I passed it on the next day to somebody I knew in the paranormal field that I trust their input. And I said, "Listen, I got a recording here." I didn't prep him. I said, "I want you to play it and tell me what you hear." It's an EVP type of a thing, I think. That's all I gave him. And he got back to me in a day and he said, "Well, what I heard was a woman singing." So I couldn't make out the words, but I heard her singing. Now, I've played that on this show, and some of you have heard that before, that singing. I look at that and I say, I check out all the facts around it. First of all, no music anywhere. No music outside, no music in the hotel. The guy down the hall was not playing music. Front desk said there's no music playing over the loudspeakers. There's no, as we already knew, there was no music. The bar and they have a little stager. It was all shut down. This would have been after bar close anyway. There were no bars open in Stillwater that night. And so there was no music coming from anywhere. We checked all the entrances, such as the balcony, which looked out over a parking lot, which was right in front of the river. And there was no cars out there running, playing music. So we checked all that stuff out. We asked the right questions the next morning, yet we picked up on the recorder a voice that we audibly heard that was soft enough that Rainey couldn't tell if it was a voice or music, but when we listened back, it was definitely a voice. So what is that when you pick stuff up like that? Is that evidence? Is that scientific evidence that something exists? What we do have, I believe it was a spirit. It was a ghost. It was ghostly singing of a woman that, in Rainey's mind's eye, had asked her to ask me to sing. And then I asked her, I never saw her, but I asked back, will you sing a song for us? If I sing it, will you sing a verse for us? And that woke us up between 2 and 3 in the morning. And I've captured it on a recording. So is that using scientific equipment to attempt to record or measure spirit activity, but it's really some kind of odd sound? Or is it good evidence for a ghost? I am curious enough to see if I've got one of those recordings here that I could play, and I'll load it and I'll play it a little later. But let me take a look here and see if I've got it, and we'll play it a little later in the show if I've still got it. It would be, this was Water Street Inn. Let me do a quick search for this. Water Street. The singing. Here it is. I've got it. I've got 2 files. I don't know if it's the same thing or not. Singing Master. And then Singing Master Water Street Inn. This was all on November 23rd of 2020 was when this happened. I'll load it up and we can come back to it. And we'll play it a little later and see what we got. It looks like it's the same clip. So I'm just going to load it up. It may want to start playing all on its own. So I hope it doesn't do that. It's not playing now. Oh, yeah, it is. Hang on. I didn't want that to play quite yet because I have to adjust the sound. So I want to ask you the question. Do you think that ghosts exist? Do you think that you can pick them up with scientific equipment? So ghosts are not only supposed to be able to do things that science says are impossible, such as turn invisible, pass through walls, but also scientists using reliable research methods have found 0 evidence that ghosts exist. I don't know what they're looking at and what they want to use as criteria for evidence, but I got to tell you, I got more than enough evidence to prove that something exists. Now, is it semantics? Are they saying we just don't know if it's a ghost? Or is that where they're stuck on it? We don't know if these are ghosts. Could be something completely different. But what scientists have discovered, though, are lots of reasons why people might feel they have ghostly encounters. Let's go through some of those. What their data shows from a scientific point of view is that you can't always trust your eyes, your ears, or your brain. And I'm going to ask, do you think you can trust your eyes, ears, and brain? Hey, Sean Vest. Good to see you. Yes, we can. They tend to linger when they realize I can sense them. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that kind of thing. And they tend to show up more the more you call on them. Will you come and talk to me? So, going back to the original story about Dom. Dom began having unusual experiences when he was 8 or 9. And he would wake up unable to move. He'd have this sleep paralysis, which they also chalk up to alien encounters. He researched what was happening to him, and he learned that science had a name for it: sleep paralysis. And this condition leaves someone feeling awake but paralyzed, frozen in place. I don't think I've ever experienced that. I've been frozen in place because I've been scared to death when I was a kid. Used to be deathly afraid of the dark. But he couldn't move or speak or breathe, not deeply. And a person under sleep paralysis can also hear, see, or feel figures or creatures that aren't really there. It's called hallucination. This is science speaking now. Hallucination. So sometimes Dom hallucinated that creatures were walking or sitting on him. Other times he heard screaming. He only saw something that one time as a teenager. Now, I'll tell you this. this whole seeing things, hallucinating. I had a roommate in college. We lived in the dorm at Pillsbury Baptist Bible College, is where I attended Bible college. And I had a roommate, and he was a freak. This dude was, he went to a Bible college, but you could tell he was a stoner in real life. And just by way of example, my girlfriend once gave me a tin full of brownies she made for me. And I came back to my room one evening, and our room, because I shared this dorm room with him, he's sitting on his bed with my tin of brownies opened up, which I'd had one of, and he had the whole thing gone. And he's got brownies smeared all over his face. And he looks up at me and goes, "Man, these are good brownies." And I look at the tin, I go, "Yeah, you could have saved me one." "Oh, sorry, man." But he had one night, I hear him, I was the upperclassman, so I had the single bed. He had the lower bunk of a bunk bed on the other end of the room. And there was nobody on the upper bunk. And he slept on the lower bunk. And I heard him one night, well, all the time he would be thrashing and moving and yelling in his sleep. I can't remember his name. It was like Bart or something. "Bart, wake up. You're dreaming." Well, this one particular night, he's going at it and he's thrashing around. And he sits up in bed, sits up so fast, he catches his forehead, on bunk beds, the springs of the bed above you, catches his head on the wires in the spring, clumps his hair into it, pushes it all off the bed. So we got this bed coming down across the desk in the room. So there's a desk in between. And I jumped out of bed and I grabbed him and I said, "Bart, wake up." And I had to pin him in the mattress that had fallen off the top bunk. And he wakes up and he's all glossy-eyed. And then he goes, oh, I just had a dream. He says, "I dreamt I was Samson and I was pulling down the pillars of the temple." I said, "Well, congratulations." I said, "You just killed 10,000 Philistines." I said, "Let's get this bed back up here and then go back to sleep." Now, was he having hallucinations? This made me think this boy has got some issues, or this boy did some pretty interesting drugs back home. And so is that what sleep paralysis will bring you? Sleep paralysis will bring you hallucinations. Sleep paralysis happens when the brain messes up the process of falling asleep or waking. And usually you only start dreaming after you're fully asleep, and you stop dreaming before you waken. But sleep paralysis is like dreaming with your eyes open. And a neuroscience scientist, Beland Jalal, he studies sleep paralysis at the University of Cambridge in England, and he says this is why it happens. Our most vivid, lifelike dreams happen during a certain stage of sleep. It's called rapid eye movement, REM. In this stage, your eyes dart around under their closed lids, and though your eyes move, the rest of your body can't. It's paralyzed. Most likely, that's to prevent people from acting out their dreams. That could get pretty dangerous. Imagine flailing your arms and legs as you play dream basketball, only to whack your knuckles on the wall or get your forehead all cut up and your hair stuck and clumped in the springs of the bunk bed above your head. So Rainey used to do that when I first knew her. And I told this just recently on this show, I think. She would wake up in the middle of the night and she'd sit up and she's swinging. And I'm like, Rainey, wake up. And, this is still a new relationship. And I wasn't thinking anything weird, but, I was like as gentle as could. Wait, Rainey. And she'd wake up and she goes, "Oh." I go, "What were you dreaming?" Oh, she said, "I was dreaming." And "What were you dreaming?" She said, "I dreamt I was fighting off zombies with a baseball bat." I said, "Oh." I said, "Did you get any?" I said, "You almost got me." We laughed. That happened a couple of times. This is pre-Walking Dead days. So she was into zombies way back. So this is like 18 years ago. So your brain usually turns this paralysis off before you wake up. But in sleep paralysis, you wake up while it's still happening. Sometimes we see faces in the clouds, science says. You don't have to experience sleep paralysis to sense things that aren't there. Have you ever felt your phone buzz and then checked to find there was no message? Have you heard someone calling your name when no one was there? Have you ever seen a face or a figure in a dark shadow? Well, these misperceptions, says science, also count as hallucinations. This is what David Smallies says. He's a psychologist in England at Northumbria University in Newcastle upon Tyne. If Jennifer Roberts were here, it'd be right next door to her. He thinks that just about everyone has had such experiences, and most of us just ignore them. But some might turn them to ghostly explanations. Now, I happen to be one that thinks that when you hear a voice call your name, it's not a hallucination. I think I've had that happen to me. And some will say it's your brain playing tricks on you. I don't think so. I think I am tuned in enough to know what's real and what's not real. But that's what science wants to pass it off on. What does Sean say? Hence the legend of incubi and succubi. Yeah, there it is, Sean Vest. And by the way, everybody who's here, remember when this show ends in about 6 minutes over on the radio, stick around after the break. We come back with the Captain's Cabin, the post show, and you can call in. You can call in with some of your ghost stories. We can talk about this stuff. So let me do this since we're already starting to run out of time. We got 6 minutes left. I want to play and see. I'm going to add this video, and it's mostly black. And I took video so I could play the recording. And this is that ghost we heard singing in the hotel. So let me play this and see what you think. It's going to come up and be a black screen. But here we go. See if you can hear this. You got to listen closely. All right? Is it going to play? I'm getting feedback. Can you guys hear that video?
Almost sounds like somebody singing it in the room.
What's down in the hallway?
I can't hear it on my end because of the glitch that we have. That I might not be able to hear it. You know what? I'm going to take that down. Let me take that down. We'll revisit that during the Captain's Cabin. So if you're listening on radio, I don't know if you could hear that or not. We'll play it and amplify it a bit on the Captain's Cabin during the post show. Sorry about that attempt. It apparently didn't work from what I could tell. Oh, you can hear it, Steph said. Okay. We may have to, we'll revisit that when I have a little more control. You could hear Rainey and I talking. Okay. In that video, there's a place where you can definitely hear what's going on in the background. So let's skip that for now. We'll wrap up the show. We got about 3 minutes left on the radio with the radio audience. But I wanted to finish talking a little bit about the science of ghosts. Pareidolia, that you make pictures in your head. Your eye can form pictures out of things. It's like looking at, a brick stacked up with the two holes in it, and it looks like eyes, and there's a mouth in there. We make faces out of pareidolia. I think that happens in many cases. I think there are people who see things, see faces in wallpaper, in the clouds, and so on. I don't then think that explains away every little bit of imagery that you see. Pareidolia, you can usually look at that and make it out. Is that something my mind is making an image out of? Or is there something there? Like the ghost I have from Porchester Castle in England. Definitely a monk. Definitely a monk with a ringlet of hair on the top of his head, with his mouth open and his eyes closed. Big cowl collar. I've shown that picture here before. Not pareidolia. So there's a power of critical thinking, they say. Anyone might experience sleep paralysis, hallucinations, pareidolia, intentional blindness, but not everyone turns to ghosts or other supernatural beings. You can look at things. What they're saying is you're not being a good critical thinker if you immediately turn to ghosts. But they do not open the possibility in some of these scientific circles for the existence of ghosts. And we can pick this up in the after show because I know they end their article over on Science News. If somebody tells you a ghost story, enjoy it, but remain skeptical. Think about other possible explanations for what's been described. I think that's a good policy to begin with anyway. Always remain skeptical, but not everything falls under skepticism. All right? We'll talk about that more in the after show. Join us right here. Live long and prosper, radio audience.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Well, hey, folks, and welcome back to the captain's cabin. Avast, climb the mizzen mast, swab me lower decks, and hang out in the hold. So, good to have you all here tonight. Thanks for coming on for the radio show. As you know, this is the captain's cabin. This is the time where you can actually call into the show and share your stories, share your mind, talk a little bit, and we'll go as late as we want to go or quit as early as we want to quit. So this is just the after show. And we didn't cover everything in great detail tonight as much as I would like to have, because as you know, I talk too much. And I sometimes just like to be done with stuff. Or that's not what I even wanted to say. Why did that come out that way? I sometimes don't finish stuff because I've got other things I want to talk about that add color or frosting or layers to the bigger subject. So there it is. Let's see. What does Elderberry said? What? Y'all, someone is going to have to stand up like the heroes of the Bible to survive the cull. There's some truth to that, Elderberry. I believe you. And yeah, those cards are coming out pretty soon. They're at press now, and they're going to be available soon. So I'll tell you more about them as it gets closer. And I've actually got a big graphic that I did for doing some advertising of this. And I'm very curious to know. Here, I'm going to save this and load it so you can see it, just so I can talk about it a little bit. I got to resave it as a PDF, and I'll show it. But now that that's at press, we're very soon going to be able to make those available for people. And here was the big question we had. It's a collectible card set that we're selling to churches and schools and Bible schools and things like that, and Bible bookstores. And will we be able to make them popular out on the open market like we were able to do 30 years ago? Steph, I will show you. I will show you those cards right now. There was, and some of you remember me talking about this 30 years ago. I had a buddy of mine from college and his wife that I was working with. And we wanted to do a set of trading cards, only Bible-oriented trading cards, something that churches could get into, that kids could get into. And but we wanted to make them cool. I said, if we do this, we got to make them cool enough that kids are going to want to buy them. And so I said I wanted there to be good art in them, comic book style art. And then let's write these cards so it's not just another, bathrobe and bed sheet and sandals and beards type of delivery. And so we did these about 30 years ago. It was Thanksgiving of 1993 that they came out, and it actually hit the local news, came in and shot a story. It's about a 4-minute story in my studio and in the stores where they were being carried. And they did a big thing, and that hit all the news wires on the CBS news wire. And it was all over the country over Thanksgiving weekend, which was perfect because it was all set for Christmas. So those cards did very well. Now, my old partner came back to me a few months ago, asked if I would would I be interested in maybe touching up some of the old cards? Did I have some of the missing cards that she didn't have because she was thinking of republishing them? And I looked at them and I said, you know what? If we're going to republish these and my name's going to be on them, I would like a chance to redo the art. Not from scratch, but let me take the art, touch it up. Let me do some digital work to them. Let me add new backgrounds. Let me touch up the lighting. Some of the cards were so, I look at it and I go, the way I used to draw 30 years ago, I was like, well, I'd like to redo this one. And I redid a couple of them from scratch, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of them. And out of it's a 48 card set. And so this is a little ad piece I put together. Now, many of you are going to recognize these already, but here, let me put this up. This is a little ad slick I did today for promoting this set. And you can see some of the cards that are up on here. And this is the way the art looks now. And I redid the logo. The logo it's the same logo as 30 years ago. I just updated it. So what you're seeing here, if you look at the top, probably can't read them on there, but top you got Abraham and then his slave girl Hagar, who his wife had him have sex with so he could have a son because she was barren, his wife. You got Lot being delivered from Sodom and Gomorrah. You got Moses at the burning bush, the Pharaoh of the Exodus, Moses' sister Miriam. And then down on the second row, Moses and the Ten Commandments. And then the bigger cards there, you see Deborah, the woman of flame, judge and prophetess of Israel, before the monarchy started. Then you got Goliath in the next one, and David with the sword of Goliath, and then Gideon in the battle there. So that's what you're seeing on that particular ad piece. But this is the set of cards. There's 48 in all. They're at press now. And so in answer to Steph, you gave me an opening to come on and say something more about them. So there it is. That's the Ancient Heroes cards. And on the back of the cards, there are cool messages written about each one of the characters and places in the Bible to find out things about them and principles and so on. So thank you, Sean Vest. I'll let you know how you get a deck. I don't even know yet. I'm not publishing them. So my friend is publishing them. She through stuff that she's got a big business down in Nashville. And so they're publishing these cards. And as soon as I know how they're available, I will let you know. And we'll probably make them available on the show. So there's that. The Ancient Heroes cards. And we want to do more of them, but we want to see how this is going to go. So this is just me having taken and redone the old cards. And I'm curious. I don't know if I showed these before. I had a couple of these where I was able to, I went in and I redid, and I showed some side-by-sides. Let's see. Yeah, I might have a couple of them here. Let's see. Just to show you how it looks. Moses. Yeah, I've only got a couple in here. But let's see. This will give you an idea of what I did to the cards to kind of brush them up a little bit. Let's do this. I'll show you this one. Let me bring this in. And this will give you an idea. Now, to some of you, it might not be all that different looking to you, but here you go. Card on the right, on the left was how it looked in 1993. Card on the right is how I have revitalized them. So now you see the differences. First thing you can see up at the top, the logo. That's the old logo from 93, and then there's the new logo that I created a couple of months back. You can see on the left, the background, pretty plain, and I created a new background for it. Abram came from Ur of the Chaldees, which is basically what you find in Iraq today. And so I've got the old ziggurat I put into the background, and then I worked with the lighting and stuff like that. And so that's basically what you saw when I revitalized these cards. And I've got one other I can show you, and that would be the Moses card. I've got Moses and the Ten Commandments. Again, it's the old artwork, but I just wanted to revitalize it a bit. Let's see. This one looks like this. Let me call this one up. All right. And here's this one. So there's Moses. Card on the left was the way they looked 30 years ago when we did these. And the card on the right is the revitalized card. Revitalized, lack of a better thing to call it. Where I went in, I put new backgrounds in, and I changed the lighting. Look at the faces on these two, so you get the idea. So there it is: biblical characters, biblical heroes, and that's coming out very soon. So that's all I got to say about that. So is Trump like a Jehu or a Cyrus or no? I don't have Trump in the deck. Sorry to say. So let's see. I got some callers waiting in the wings. Where we go? Well, we got Michael is here, and I think there's Uncle John. But before I bring either of you dudes in, I want to try this. It only lasts a few minutes. This recording from the hotel, and see if you can hear the singing. It's very quiet. I think this might be the raw footage as opposed to what I amplified. But I'm going to play this now. So if you got a headset, put your headset on or listen very closely because it's very soft in the background. I don't exactly know which file I've got here, but let me play this for you. Here we go. You'll hear me and Rainey talking to start with. I take it back. You can't hear anything on this file. Oh, here we go. Keep listening. Right here, I amplified it.
Can you hear it out there?
I was talking to Rainey there. Well, there's one little spot where you can hear it. That's Rainey. This is not the good file for this. Here. Now listen here in the background. Back that up a few seconds. You'll be able to hear somebody. It sounds like they're humming or singing. Listen to this now. Here we go. Now, did you hear that? Back just a few seconds, and I'll play that again. Listen, as soon as the hissing goes up a little bit, I've amplified it, and you'll be able to hear the singing. Hold on. Right here. There. Did you hear that? And then it goes on and on toward the end.
It's still playing.
Yeah.
Rainey can still hear it here, but you can't hear it on this recording. Okay, so that's all I'm going to play of that. I've got other files of this and somewhere else, stored somewhere else. But where I have tampered with the sound and brought it up so you could hear more of what's in the background. But if you could hear that one section on this video, and there was many more seconds of the singing, but you heard that one little section that I played a couple of times, you could hear what sounded like almost like humming. Good night, Val. Good to see you. That's right. It's an hour later out there. So you could hear the singing. And so we picked up quite a bit of that. And it's all on tape. That was the raw tape you heard there. So, yeah, you might be able to hear it better on your computer. But yeah, I wish I had those, and I used to have them in here. I'll load it in, and I took them out, but I had different files for that. If you bear with me for a second here, I'm going to see if I actually have it here. Let me take a look here again. I'm going to look in a couple of places here. We're going to find, let's see if it comes up under this. Singing. Oh, yeah, I've got it here. I've got a couple of different files. If you want, I'll bring these in and we'll try to listen to these. And you guys hanging in the wings, just sit there with me for a minute. I've got 3 files. Singing 1, 2, and 3. And I'm not sure which one has the best sound, but they range from a couple of minutes to 3 minutes each, something like that. And let me see what I've got here and see if we can find something where you can hear this. And it's got the sound bar as a still, so you'll be able to see this. And I don't know the best place to do this, but let's try this one. I'm going to call up the second one.
Hallway.
Now that's Rainey talking. Listen close. I can hear her now. You hear that?
Could you sing louder?
Somebody's playing music somewhere. It's not anybody singing in
Yeah,
here.
where is it? And see, it sounded like music playing, but then it sounded
That's what
like
we thought. We
somebody's
thought we were
calling.
hearing music playing.
Mhm.
There's like a fiddle. Someone's got a fiddle or a guitar. There's 2 instruments playing. It sounds like.
Okay, that was that one. And you can tell that there is somebody singing. And we originally thought we were hearing music coming from somewhere. So let me see here if I can put one of the other ones on and might be able to hear a little bit more. Okay.
I hear the one that sounds like a voice.
Here.
Can you hear it out there?
I can hear it a little bit up there, but I hear it better in here. But there's somebody.
We could hear it better in the bedroom
Downstairs or what?
than the hallway. Yes, this was in our room. When you hear the hissing go louder, I've amplified it, and that's where you'll hear more of this. Right there.
It's still playing.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what we were hearing.
It's down in the hallway.
Oops. That's raining again. Here we go. I can hear the singing right now.
Could you sing?
Did you guys hear that? It was right there. And the thing is, we did our due diligence on this. We did our, as you can hear, we're thinking we're hearing music coming from somewhere, like musical instruments playing, like a band. But we went and we really searched out. We asked the management in the early morning. We actually went to, and we might have gone down that night at 3 in the morning and asked them. And that's where we found out there's only one other guy in the hotel and not playing music. So that, everybody, is the very, I think, very intriguing, interesting singing that we picked up at the Water Street Inn in Stillwater, Minnesota. And I will tell you this, and Stillwater is just way over on the far eastern outskirts of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, all the way up to the border of the state on the river, the St. Croix River. You cross the bridge there and you're in Wisconsin. So it's an old mill town. And so, yes, it's known to have spirit activity, but not known like, oh, everybody in the cities knows about this place. It's not like that. It's that, and I don't think there's been a lot of ghost groups in there to do anything. I was going to get a hold of Amy Bruni and see if they wanted to do something up here. But I don't know if their show got renewed or not for this year. Kindred Spirits. And, but I'd like to go do that again with Rainey and see if we pick up that singing again. And the thing about that singing is it's not haunting melody. We can't even, I wish we could make out the melody. We couldn't make out the tune even. Just that it sounded like somebody humming a song. And we couldn't make out the words. And this was because she had that woman that she felt or saw in her mind's eye asking her to have me sing. I sang, and then I asked her if she'd sing something for us. And what happens? 3 hours later in the middle of the night, we're woken up by that. And we caught it on a recording. So, Steph, yeah, this was in our room at the hotel. So it was quite the place. So all we know about the place is that it dates back into the 1890s. Nothing, no strange stories about it. This is Stillwater, Minnesota, a mill town where all the lumber used to come down the river and go to the sawmills at Stillwater. And Stillwater today is one of those quaint little towns. And an interesting place. So I think I am curious, just for those of you curious to see it, the Stillwater Inn. See if there are pictures of it. Yeah. Oops. I can go to images of the place. Yeah, here it is. I will, before I bring John and Michael in, sorry guys to make you wait so long. Here, I'm going to share my screen and show you this, guys. My entire screen and share it. Okay, here are some pictures of the Stillwater Inn. So this is where we stayed. I don't know why that came up. Here's where we stayed, right here. The Water Street Inn. I'm sorry, not the Stillwater Inn. Water Street Inn. There you go. This is the place. And there's the St. Croix River. And let's see if there's some better pictures in here. that I can open up for you. Maybe that's got some of the old rooms in it. Yeah, that's going to different places. So the Water Street Inn is what I'm looking for. I put Stillwater in. Water Street, Stillwater, Minnesota. Here we go. So this is the building. You can see it's still got the old building in there and the new sections that they put on top of it that they built in. Here's one of the rooms that we were in. I think this is where Rainey may have, or is this the lobby? No, this is one of the bedrooms. Let's open this image up. It's tiny, of course. So some of the old rooms, they've got tiny pictures. I don't know why they do that. So you can see in some of these older pictures here, some of the older rooms. So it's a very cool place. Water Street Inn. Let's try this picture. And not so tiny, but there you go. That's some of the rooms. This was not the room we were in, although this has a hot tub in it. You can see here. Our room was on the front end, and then the hot tub was in a big parlor living room. So, but that's some pictures of the place. Gives you an idea. It's right by the old lift bridge in Stillwater. So, yeah, very cool place. See if they've got any larger images we can look at. Not too much. So, let's see if this is a larger one. Not really. Oh, well, that's a waste of time. So, you get the idea. There it is. I'll open this one. They're all small images. I don't know why. So, I'm out of this. So, let's turn this off. Stop sharing the screen. Boom, there we are. And so that's the place. Yeah, they floated logs, Sean. They did the logging up north of St. Croix Falls, which is up the river a few miles. And they floated all that lumber down into Stillwater, into the sawmills. And back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it's pretty cool. So let's see. We got Michael. He's been sitting here the longest. Let's bring him in. How you doing, Michael?
I'll send you a message that said give me a little heads up. I was working on the phone, but
oh, I didn't see the messages.
I was being productive while I was waiting.
Oh, sure.
No, I hear every time I hear the word critical thinking anymore, because that is the class I'm finishing up in my college right now is critical thinking. And it's talking about ethics and everything that goes with critical thinking today. That's part of it. And I've always approached ghost hunting or anything I've done in my life with critical thinking. Is it a tree blowing against the window? Is the floor creaking because it's old?
See, I tend to think though that sometimes we use critical thinking to come up with creative excuses.
Yep.
I'm a critical thinker. It might have been a tree scraping on it might have been a ghost. It might have been a spirit. It might have been something
a squirrel.
Unexplainable.
Yeah, that's my go-to anymore. Squirrels. It's squirrels playing in the attic. Groundhogs, raccoons. But no, I have seen a lot of things that critical thinking could not rule things out. And I tell them, had a guy tell me, he said, I approach everything as a skeptic.
Yeah.
So don't ask, and you kind of paint yourself into a corner if you're going to disbelieve from like he's talking about the atheists. They don't believe in nothing. They're very painted in for a belief system.
Yeah.
But Halloween, All Hallows Eve is coming up, and that's when the veil, when you go in to like ancient things, that's when the veil is supposed to be the thinnest between the realms.
Yeah.
What does they say? As it is above, so is it below, or something. It's like that. So yeah, I did that. This is why it's my favorite time of the year. I got some things at Spirit Halloween I got to send over, and but I think he's talking about the logs and the floating. There's, the one thing that Einstein said, and people can take it for what it is. He said the one thing that can never be created or destroyed was energy. So if it was an old mining town or logging town, the guy might have just had a payday. He might have
Sure.
just been happy. He might have been humming to see a woman of the evening come to his room. He might have just been extremely happy.
Mechanics says the log driver's waltz. That's what she was humming. Now, did you hear that, or are you just having fun with it, Mechanics? I don't know that song off the top of my head.
No.
Are you saying you heard that, or just having fun with it? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't know there was a such thing, but like I said, you never know unless you go digging into it. And like I said, I have heard a lot of things through EVPs and everything that you can't explain. It's like you said, I've heard "get out," and you've heard
sure.
the whole "fu" bomb. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Say, hey, you want to come speak into my mic? Fuck you. He's like, hey, I ain't doing nothing for free. I get paid.
That night, Rainey and I, we didn't get a lot for EVPs, but we got a woman singing for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that to me is a great experience.
Yeah.
And so, and I got to tell you, could it have been something else? Maybe. But we checked all possibilities.
yeah.
So, and it's like I like to tell people,
Trust me,
we aren't rubes. We weren't born yesterday and fall fresh off the paranormal turnip truck.
No.
We've been around the block for 20 years together doing this stuff, Rainey and I. And we're not duped too easily. You hear that even when we're hearing it, Rainey's thinking it's a band playing somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we went down the hall to check. We're out in our underwear out in the hallway, walking down the hallway,
Hey, it happens.
trying to find out if it was a band playing. So, hey, we got Michael here. I don't know if John is here or if he stepped away because I only see his blank screen. Well, let's bring Captain Barbados in.
Yeah, right. Good night,
How you doing,
everybody.
Matthew?
Well, I'm not too bad. I had a bit of a bad headache today, but at least I feel some improvement. So I'm glad about that.
Uncle John's mic's muted.
Yeah.
So what's
I-
on your mind tonight? Do you have something to add to all of this excitement?
Well, I find that the conversation was quite stimulating because it's a topic that should be discussed a lot more too. Because although we can't always see everything with the physical eye, there is more to the universe than what we can see with visible light. So, and even the Bible tends to allude to topics even about ghosts, because even the Bible has a story of Samuel's ghost appearing to Saul when he went to beat him and all that
The
stuff.
Bible, even people who are Bible believers that want to discount ghosts. Remember, the Bible is full of ghost stories. And it was something that they were very well acquainted with.
Yeah. Yeah, because I heard a theory that they were saying that when the disciples thought that Jesus was a ghost walking in the water, there was some theory back then, but it may have caused the disciples to be panicked because they thought that they would have saw probably an apparition of a person who had drowned at sea or something like that in a shipwreck.
Yeah.
That's why they thought Jesus would have been a ghost or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to start doing a little bit more because my sons now want to get into ghost hunting, and we've not taken them. And so we're going to try to do that with our kids. So our older kids, not so much the younger kids.
Yeah.
So so we're going to be doing a little bit more, and maybe for this program, for those of you who watch this show, and over on the Patreon page, we'll probably throw up a little bit more of that, so you can see some of the evidence that we pick up, and we've gotten a lot of evidence. So
I've done this for a long time, and like I said, I picked up a lot of things. But what really gets me, the same way with like Bigfooting and all this, you have the people who saw a Bigfoot behind every tree,
right?
A Loch Ness in every lake, and you see the people that see a ghost behind every shadow of the door. And I told them, I said, y'all are hurting our field. You're like, oh no, no, no. The more evidence you can pile on and make people believe, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you're fabricating your evidence. You're not helping the field.
Yeah.
And it turns me into the devil's advocate quite a bit. And I don't like it. Everybody knows me. I'm so
Sure.
easy to get along with. It's scary. But that's what I'm saying. But when he come up and said that could be the log pusher's waltz or something like that, I never knew they had one.
I didn't either. I'm sure it would probably maybe, like I say, I don't know mechanics if you're making fun of it a little bit, which is just fine, or if that's something that might have existed during the day. I'm sure it ain't far a stretch to say that back in the 1800s in a mill town that they didn't have a song called the log. What was it? The lumberjack's waltz or something? I don't know. The log driver's waltz, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe that's what
possibly.
she was
but
like I said, I'm wondering if there is a easy enough to look up log driver's waltz. The National Film Board, it says here, it's a Canadian folk song written by Wade Hemsworth. The log driver's waltz. It all depends on when it was written too. If it's an old song. I'm looking to see something from 2010 that lists it. Don't know when it was written. The original. Let's see. There's a cartoon, and it says it's the original. So there's sheet music for it that I see here. Let's see what we got. There's a video.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube video. I don't know if you can hear that. Yeah, it's more modern.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, maybe not. It's got old rickety piano playing.
Yeah, Barbara D says she's out, Scotty. Oh, there's Uncle John.
Hi, John. Yeah.
Listen, you never know unless you kind of overlay it to see what the humming is.
It's an interesting piece. I can't play it all, or I'll get a copyright strike.
Oh.
Yep.
All right.
Sean R says, Middletown, PA is filled full of spirits and ghosts and dark energies. One of the oldest towns. We was in Gettysburg, and they kept telling us to watch for the Smoky Soldiers, and it was from the Battle of Gettysburg, where they had the battlefield there. And I would love to spend more time there.
Yeah, Gettysburg is one of the most haunted places.
We had some great experiences in Gettysburg. So
yeah, Gettysburg.
Because although they have
been in Gettysburg, I didn't get out to the battlefields. I didn't get out to the Devil's Den, any of those places.
Oh yeah,
I was there when the Ghost Hunters were doing an event there, and I was there presenting or reading tarot. I don't remember which, but yeah, that's when we had those experiences with Mark and Debbie Constantino down in the basement. The late Mark and Debbie Constantino. Tragic end to them a few years ago, but good friends. And we had that voice coming through on their EVP demonstration they were doing of the Mr. Sweeney at the Farnsworth Inn. And it was creepy as all shit. And Uncle John is back. Let me bring him in.
Yeah, he was off.
There's Uncle John.
And
yeah, that was the one where Adam Bly was with us, and I had Aaron Sagers with me. I was the editor-in-chief of the magazine for Ghost Hunters, and he was working with me on the magazine. And we were sitting down in what they called the catacombs of the old Farnsworth Inn, and Adam was picking up. Adam is a demonologist. I've talked about him before. He's one that is flown in to the Vatican to speak to priests and bishops and so on about exorcism and demons.
Exorcism.
But he's not a priest, so he's a very solid Catholic, and he says, I can't do exorcisms because I'm not a priest. He says, but I know about demonology, and that's what he teaches. And he will pray for souls. And we were at the Farnsworth Inn, and he was picking up that there were children who were sitting in this catacomb. They had it off the finished basement through a fire door and a second fire door in the back of a broom closet that got you into the catacomb. And we were sitting in there, and he was picking up. He said, there's somebody really nasty down here. And he just says into the darkness, Adam says, you have to go away. He says, you cannot be here. I'm going to pray for these children later tonight, because he's picking up all kinds of children. And are you saying, Steph, that they closed that off now? I know they had it behind a big fire door, and it was all locked up. We were there at midnight, and the manager came down to open it up for us with the keys. But so we went out, and I've told this story before. Many of you have heard this before. But when we came out, it was Mark and Debbie Constantino were doing a EVP demo for about 10 or 12 people down in the basement there. They had all their equipment set up. And I came up to Debbie and I said, hey, can you ask if there's a Mr. Sweeney here? And yeah, I'll do that. So Adam and Aaron and I are standing in the back of the room. And she says, Scotty wanted me to ask for a Mr. Sweeney. So let's do a little experiment. She turns on all the recording equipment. And she said, is there a Mr. Sweeney here? And pauses to leave space for an answer to be recorded. Asks a couple of things. And are there children here? And so on. And she recorded for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then she said, let's play it back and see what we pick up. You hear her voice asking, is there a Mr. Sweeney here? And you hear a growling. I mean, it was a man growling in anger. You hear him going, ah, like that. I'm Sweeney, the voice says. And had I not been there, and I've said this before, had I not been there, I might listen to somebody's story about it and go, bullshit. But I was there, and I heard it. Adam looks at me. I look at him, and then the voice says, Adam Bly, calls out his name on the tape. Don't you fucking tell me what to do. And I don't know if it was that coherent, but that was what came up. And Adam looks at me, his eyebrows go up. He goes, oh, you didn't sound too happy. And he stayed there the rest of that night to pray for the souls of people that he felt were trapped there. And and in this with Sweeney, you start hearing children's voices on the tape. You hear Debbie asks another question, and you hear children. They're crying, and one of them says, save us from the Father. And because it was said that Sweeney impregnated his own daughters and then took the kids and killed them and buried them in the walls in what is the catacomb.
Yeah.
And this was all verified by his wife, documented by the county after his death. And so you hear these children's voices, save us, crying, and you hear that same and it wasn't like an animal growl, it was like a man doing that.
Like he was
and then the recording ended. And there was a woman that was in the group there for the demo, started crying. Another woman said somebody just pulled her hair. She got upset. So everybody got up and left, except Mark and Debbie and Adam and I and Aaron. And so it was an interesting experience in the basement of the Farnsworth house in Gettysburg. And that's one of the houses where up in the attic, there's a low window that's equal, the bottom of the window is equal to the floor in the attic, where there had been several snipers up there that had been killed. And the outside of the house is still, it's brick. It's still pockmarked with all the musket balls, stuff like
Bullet
that.
holes.
So bullets and stuff. And so,
Where's the Amityville
Very
Horror House at? Is that Pennsylvania or is that New York?
where?
Amityville Horror is our house. Is that New York or is that?
Amityville? Oh, that's New York, Connecticut, or is it New York State? Don't remember off the top of my head.
Because like I said,
Steph says one of her friends is now the assistant manager at the Jenny Wade House.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jenny Wayne. I heard of her. She
Yeah,
got
that-
killed during the Millie Civil War.
Yeah. She got shot in her house.
Yeah.
Yes,
boy.
yes. I've heard people say that they've seen apparitions of her in that way, that in.
Oh, Steph says they've closed off that spot in the basement at the Farnsworth house.
There's another
Locked
place
up.
too.
I
In
don't want anybody going down there. Yeah, it was locked up when we were there. You couldn't get in. We actually had one of the women, young woman, who worked at the Farnsworth house. She was dressed in a, antebellum, I guess antebellum Southern, but Civil War era dress. And she actually walked me and Aaron outside. And she said, "Come here, I have to talk to you." And it was after closing. She walked us outside onto the front sidewalk, off the property. And she said, "I can't talk about this on the property." She said, "Because they will make their displeasure known to me." Me speaking of the spirits. And she was talking about, she was the one that told us these stories. And she asked if we asked if she could get the manager to come down and open up that catacomb. Oh, and that's, by the way, my one brief meeting with Lorraine Warren. There was apparently some other event going on at Gettysburg when we were having this event. And I think it was with Chad Kalick. And he had Lorraine Warren there to speak. And we were at the Farnsworth house, and we had to go around to the cellar door or something. And so we went through this other courtyard of the house next door to get around to it. And Chad was there. And I said, "Chad, we just need to pass through." And he goes, "Go ahead, man." And we walked by, and the special guest was Lorraine Warren. And she was right there. And I go, and we're almost running to get through to the back door. And I stop and I go, "Why, hello." Because it was Lorraine Warren. And she goes, "Why, hello." And this was back in 2010, I think it was. So Ed had already died, but she was still living. And she smiled, very pretty smile. "Well, hello." And I said, "Well, hello. I wish I had time to talk with you." I said, "But I've got to run." And she said, "Well, you have fun." And that was it. That was my encounter with Lorraine Warren. So
Okay.
if you guys don't know who Lorraine Warren is, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they were the first people, ghost investigators, psychic, into the Amityville house back in 1972. And that's what they did for a living. Steph said she met Lorraine and Ed multiple times. They do speaking engagements in your town all the time. That's cool, Steph.
Yeah.
And Steph, she did some ghost hunting there, I think, before she passed away. But she was there with Chad Kalick, I believe. I believe it was Chad had an event that same weekend. So as the ghost hunter.
There's another building in Gettysburg, near Gettysburg College area. They had a principal 150 years ago in Gettysburg called Rosa Carmichael. I think that was her name. She was not a good lady. She was very, very, very strict. And that a boy that he was trying to get away from her. Apparently, these two ladies that they were inside their home heard a knock on the door, and the boy came in and he told them about the principal. And so when the principal came to find out where the boy was, they took the boy and brought him outside and put him out on the balcony ledge and then shut the window. But it was frigid temperatures. It was below zero, and he unfortunately was out there until the principal left, and when they came back to see if they could find the boy, all they could find was his footprints, but they couldn't find him anymore. And as apparitions of this boy appeared on the window with phrases like "help me," and they hear songs, and they call him the mysterious blue boy and so on. So, yeah,
What
some
was
heavy stuff there, boy.
what was
Steph
the
said
oh,
that she was touched up in the attic at the Farnsworth house. It was a slow caress on my leg, she said, but I told the spirit it could touch me. Interestingly enough, Steph, Aaron Sagers and I were up in some of the bedrooms at the Farnsworth house, which are done up very Civil War era. As you know, you've been there. And we were talking to children. There were some children's clothes in the bedroom. And it was dark. There was a little lamp on, I think, a little bit of light. But Aaron and I were saying, if there are children here, you can come and talk to us. Now, we didn't have any equipment with us. It was just kind of the raw energy. And I said to the room, I said, look, I'm a dad. I said, if there's any of you kids that are still here, you children, I said, it's okay. It's okay if you want to say hello. And I put out my hand and I said, if you want to take my hand, you can take my hand. And I'm getting chills just talking about it. And so Aaron and I were standing there and we both felt like you, Steph, on our legs, like somebody was touching our legs. And somebody took my hand. And it was very indistinct and slight. You know, it wasn't like somebody taking your hand, but you could feel it. And you could feel it in the room. And I turned to Aaron and I said, do you feel that? And he said, I feel that. And we felt that on our legs too. These small children coming in. Sean Vest says, I've had cold hands on the shoulders and even had one walk through me. Total energy drain. I could barely stand afterwards. Took a good 10 minutes to come around. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen. And,
So,
what was the Civil War POW prison that they was all treated really, really bad, and a lot of them died from cholera?
I don't know.
It's
There was one at Fort Mifflin, but that's up in Pennsylvania, Mifflin.
There was one.
Steph, have you been to Fort Mifflin?
I think that's the American War of Independence time. Fort Mifflin,
it might have been. So. I think Mifflin was there during the Revolutionary War.
This is,
I don't know about Civil War.
Andersonville.
Usable fort.
Andersonville, that's what it's called. Andersonville. Yep.
And I know our own Fort Snelling up here in Minnesota. So very far away from Revolutionary War era, far away from Civil War, it seems. But here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we've got that fort. I've talked about it before when I've talked about the aftermath of the Dakota Wars up here in 1862, where they had an internment camp for the Dakota, the Native Americans there. And you can still go see the site, although they haven't marked it off. It's in the woods down below the fort on the river. That's where we had our experiences there, recorded voices and so on. But that fort was built in 1820. And so there was activity that took place there during the Civil War. It was an active fort all the way up through, I think, the Korean War.
Right through.
Now it's a landmark, and it's a place you can go visit. There's reenacting there and so on. Steph is investigating the Conjuring House on Sunday night.
Where's
Monday morning. Oh, that's interesting, Steph. We're going to have to talk to you when you come back from that.
Where's that at?
That's Conjuring House is in Connecticut, isn't it? Or is that what I was thinking? Where's the Conjuring?
All of them states are really, really small and close together.
Yeah.
Here, if I want to drive, and that's like somebody told me the other day. They said, "Oh, how you and Ken are both in the same state?" I said, "Yeah, but we're 7 hours apart."
Yeah.
And it's like, I know it was Oh, Carlene's like, I'm moving to Prince George County. I'll bring down the stuff to you to send to Wendy that I got her. She said, what am I, an hour or so away? I said, no, honey, you're about 5-6 hours away. Prince George County is totally on the other side. And
Rhode Island
yeah,
is
Rhode Island.
Conjuring House.
Rhode Island is a little bitty.
Little bitty state. Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't that where the Mount Washington Hotel is? And yes, to Fort Mifflin too, she says. She's been there.
Yeah, she said something about her YouTube channel. Does she have a ghost hunting YouTube channel or something that she wants to put out?
Steph, we can click on her image and you can get to her channel, I think. Let's see. Nope. I can put her in a timeout, but I can't get to her channel.
Nope.
Steph, we can look you up. It's under Steph Cuervo Queen. We'll find it.
Because I know Wicked Women comes back Sunday, then Robertson comes back Tuesday.
Yep.
And that's the only way we grow our channels is supporting them.
That's right.
Family Guy State.
Family Guy State. There you go, Sean.
It's a giggity. Yeah.
Well, guys, it's 11 o'clock. And
it's 12 o'clock my time.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock out there.
Yeah,
and so, Uncle John, we didn't hear much from you tonight. You're there, though. Your presence is here.
Yeah. You feeling all right? You ain't sickly on us, are you?
Scotty, maybe you remember the location. Uncle Dave was in England or maybe Scotland in a catacomb, and they were talking about children, a specific child.
Queen Mary's Close.
There we go.
In Edinburgh. So,
and they said sometimes she makes her presence known, and Dave goes, "She's here by me." And his pant leg was pulled out away from his leg like a fist had the clothing. And his hands were nowhere near it.
Yep. There was a warehouse that Dave was looking at putting his studio up in. God, this is 15 years ago. And Rainey and I went with him to look over this space. And there's a big freight elevator. There wasn't a regular elevator. We went up to the second or the third floor of this big open warehouse space. And old building, 100 years old. And we rode down in that big freight elevator. And Dave and Rainey felt this, and I didn't. Standing between them was, as Dave put it, he thought the ghost of a little child that took both of their hands. And Dave looks at Rainey, and Rainey looks at Dave, and it was another one of those. They're both going, are you feeling that? And so they both had that happen in that warehouse, and they both perceived that it was a little child holding their hands. I was on the other side of Rainey. I didn't feel anything. So,
left out.
So it's interesting. Steph said she'll post some stuff if she gets any. You'll have to just be here and tell us about it too. Maybe we'll bring you on, Steph, and you can talk about it. So be prepared to come on camera on Monday night. Yeah. And unless you're too tired from staying up all night, we'll have to make it Wednesday or next Friday. We'll see what works best for you. So anyway, guys, thank you all for being here. And I'm going to let you all go. Uncle Dave, good to see you, brother.
Yeah, bye.
You have a good night.
Yep.
We'll see you later. And Captain Barbados, Matthew Sainsbury, good to see you. Go dip your feet in get into the white sand beaches and get into the turquoise water down there in the Caribbean.
Must be nice. You know what? If I could drive there, I'd drive there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, but no.
Yeah, they're way in the outskirts of the Caribbean. They're way out into the Atlantic almost. So
I'd go there. I'd be like Captain Jack. I'd say, "Where's the rum?
Where's the rum?
Where's the rum?"
Yeah. And so, Michael,
said,
I'm gonna let you go.
The rum. Oh. You burn it. But remember what was he saying when she took all the rum and burned it to signal the ship? But you burnt the rum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be left on an island, what did they call that? What's the word for that?
when the
Marooned. You
marooned on
on an island.
with
If
turtles.
you got nothing else, you better have the rum. So,
Better have the room. That's it.
all right, Michael, you have a good night. Talk to you later, brother. All right, and everybody else, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for being part of the Captain's Cabin. We'll do, what is it? It's Friday. We'll do a show on Sunday morning. Now, remember, Sunday mornings, it's at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. Right here, we do a very informal show on Sunday. It's like coffee time on Sunday mornings. And so come on over and join the show. You can call in. We can all talk. So we'll see you then. And then again, of course, next week for Intrepid Radio. So all of you, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time, being part of this show. Go on over to my my Patreon page, or you can do it here too. You can sign up both places, help support this show so we can do some cool stuff. That's all I got. You have a good night. Live long and prosper.